and running and running, 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 running and. In this context, there's no disrespect, so when I bust my rhyme, you break your neck.
Percent of type 2 diabetics are healing in 3 weeks. Keeping in mind, the medical world says not able to heal at all. Just a consistent downhill thing. Losing 10 to 19 years off your life. And type 2 diabetics who are insulin dependent, 24% in 3 weeks. And more amazing, 21% of type 1s. Which is like shocking to me. That was our last 120 people. It's coming out my revised edition of There's a Cure for Diabetes, April 9th, this coming year. And 31% are off insulin in 3 weeks. So those are very unique statistics. But what's really important here is diabetes is accelerated aging. Once you just get that concept, what we see works for diabetes actually works for everybody as an optimally healthy diet. Well, we're going to get to that at the latter third of the talk, because the message in my research now over the years is like, well, what's the optimally healthy diet? Now that's not a theory, it's like we're observing people. I mean, not only do I have 40 years of experience, I'm clinical experience, but we're really looking at people very, very closely. So I took the last 120 people we worked with, and we did this, who've been to the diabetes program, and those are the results. But I don't want to talk about so much about diabetes. You'll hear a little bit about that, but I really want to talk about the principles that I really affirmed. Let me put it that way: learned and affirmed. So that's the key where we're going. But the bigger picture, which is actually very important, because there's more to life than meat, right? Which is a tendency we have. Is what about me? It's like, what about the world? Okay. What about everybody else? So I'm going to share a little bit. We're doing work around the world. I have actually physical centers for general health and diabetes prevention in Nigeria, and an area that you know mostly is Biafra, and in Ghana, and also in Ethiopia, where people come to the tree, gotten educated, go back, and they're teaching. And I've gone there. You'll see a few slides of us doing that. And also Cameroon. And we also have programs in Mexico as well. So we're actually applying it. And what we're applying is a live food vegan approach. And we're applying it on a national level. I'm meeting with the prime ministers, the heads of the Department of Health, that kind of thing, because the goal is to transform whole nations. Okay. It's a different story, different thing. I just had the former Prime Minister in New Guinea healing his diabetes. I'm going to go back and, we're going to really work very clearly on a program to turn the whole nation into a diabetes thing. And they have a 40% rate of diabetes. The U.S. is 8%. It's huge. Okay, without going into the downside of diabetes, which is very, very bad. After 15 years, you're just pretty dysfunctional if you aren't taking care of yourself. So this is kind of where we're going with it. But connected with that is that we have schools, we have these centers, and we are also teaching veganic farming. And so all these places have, are developing agricultural, organic farming to supply their food. Now you start to see how it's supposed to integrate. And this is the micro business. So we get this going, and then we have people doing their stuff around, and you have a whole microclimate of health. So that is what we're doing, not kind of. That's specifically what we're doing. We're doing this around the world, but those are the places that we're really, most, active on that national level. Part of the reason, quite frankly, is that they're not hooked into the pharmaceutical world, and the corporate world. They actually care about the health of their people. And I don't say that cynically, I'm saying they actually do care. It's really interesting, to see what it's like to work with officials who actually care. When I was teaching in Lima, Peru, same thing. Head of the health department for Peru was at my lecture. Hey, I got 22 hospitals. Come down, get us started here. I mean, I care. I want this to happen. That's the attitude that we see outside of this kind of setting called the United States, and it's because they're not constrained by the corporate world. So they have different priorities. So that's a little bit what I'm going to show you in just a minute. The other things that are happening of the tree, just kind of overview, is we actually now have a master's program, the first one in the world, in veganic farming. That means no animal products, no blood meal, bone meal, no manure. And we've kind of mastered that technique over the last 20 years, so now we're teaching it. And people can get a master's in it. So that's kind of exciting. That we're open for applications as of like a week or two ago. So that's going to start January 25th. And we have a master's program in the live food, veganic nutrition, which we've had for a long time. Again, the first master's program, meaning a university degree, which entitles you to practice legally. And that is going to become more and more important. As I just heard today in Illinois, they're trying to outlaw anybody that isn't degree doing holistic health. And you can bet that's going to happen all over the country. It's actually happening all over the world. Are you aware of what I'm saying? There's a movement, again, obviously, by the pharmaceutical and so forth, to completely constrict the natural healing because it works, and we don't have to go into politics. And I'm telling you what you know. And the third thing we've started is a 6-month cafe apprentice program. And this will be the only program where you go and you actually come up able to run a whole restaurant. People can take courses, and that's available a lot of places. But we're really the only place, in this world of veganic life and nutrition that actually is running a teaching restaurant with all the other things. So we've created a whole live food, organic, veganic world. And that's what you're seeing here. It's like, that's really where we're focused. That's why we're talking about veganic vacations. We obviously have our detox programs that we've been doing for years. We have the whole person healings, which I'm spending more time with, so it gives me free time to move all over the world. And then we usually have our 21-day programs, which include diabetics, but actually many people are coming just to take a 21-day veganic, uplifting spiritual experience. And so that's kind of the essence of what's going down, for us and what we're offering to people. So that's kind of on that sheet, and there we go. And so this is the Tree of Life. This is our entrance. This is straw bale construction. This is, can you see that here? Okay. Okay, so this is, you can see the woman here, the face, the breast. This is the Divine Mother holding the land here. This is where we do the Native American spirit dance. I'm a sun dancer as well, but we also been running spirit dance. It's the old ghost dance. We've been doing that now for 11 years. So we're very kind of, we have a few things going on, the yoga and the Kabbalistic Essene teachings, and also the Native American teaching. So we kind of do a lot of things like that. Give you a little feeling, and it's nice, sunny, and warm. Okay? Still adjusting to that. But this is our version of Shaktipat. This is, see the rainbow coming into the third eye, coming into the heart. These are views. This is casitas, desert scene. We don't have a lot of grass there because you can't work it. It doesn't work. Our cafe. Everything's pretty much outdoors. This is a little bit about our gardening spaces. This is a mikvah, a special sacred bath, the shape of a womb. A teepee, medicine wheel. This is it even works. It'll work here too. It's this is a solar greenhouse, and then off-grid, and it can go to 25 degrees below zero. So it works even in Alaska. This is what it looks like. Very lush. This is Shanti and I doing a little yoga. This is a fire ceremony. This is an EP. I'm doing the pipe ceremony. This is our labyrinth. It's the biggest chartreuse labyrinth in the world, as far as I know. It's 112 feet. The actual chartreuse labyrinth is 46 feet. Chartreuse in France. This is a really special thing. It does snow for about 30 minutes once a year. And then it warms up, right? Little sunset. Now here we go with some of the books. And here we go. The evolutionary diet of the future. And I'm trying to give you the big picture because I don't separate, okay, diet from ethics, morality, and spirituality. And I want to understand that that's not how everybody feels. You know, the people pushing the feral thing, morality, ethics has nothing to do with anything. You know, you just go kill that animal and eat it. You know, it doesn't matter. Obviously, vegans think differently. Right? But some vegans are thinking only about health. 50% vegans are health, and close to that are thinking about animal rights and the fact that animals are here with us. So, and then of course other people are thinking about ecology. All of it's true. All of it's true. And that's the point when I call it holistic live food veganism. Now, is this a new idea? Have we discussed? No. I'll just make it real quick to the point. No. So 6,000 years ago we had the Anukis, and we had the Sumerians before that, the Genesis diet, you know, the Genesis 129. Basically, that was the primordial diet. Roughly 6,000 years, 5,772 years ago. And it was simply fruits and vegetables and seeds. Not a new idea. And the thing is, the environment was a little different. It was like a total Garden of Eden around the whole planet. Like one big greenhouse. It was pretty easy to do the live food. But that is what people did. That's what you did. So it wasn't a new concept. Now, the weather changed a little bit and so forth, but the absolutely recorded history of the Pelagasians. Anyone hear of the Pelagasians? So you don't even know where they were. Right? I actually researched it out. Herodotus said, Pelagasians, okay, they're in southern Greece. I actually went there, that recorded history, and their average age was 200, and they were recorded 3,000 years ago to be, living a 100% life-free diet. So if anybody tells you it's a new idea, it's never been tried before, and where's your proof? Anthropologically, that's a good start. Well, that's a good start here. So, and that's a very good start too. So some of the arguments that are out there are actually very, let's say, non-historical. Okay, so I'm kind of supporting you. Now, who's ever heard of Akhenaten and Nefertiti? I'm just curious. Okay. Oh, okay. You're a well-educated girl. I'm on the East Coast, of course. Yeah. So look, they're 1300 BC. Pharaoh, Queen. What do you think that is? It's live food. Sun, nursing, live food. And actually, they taught Again, 100% live food diet for the whole environment. Later, it just became the priesthood. Because it's very clear, the live food diet supports spiritual life. It helps you become a superconductor of the divine. Not a discovery I made with the book Spiritual Nutrition. That's been around a while. In fact, there's nothing I'm saying that ultimately isn't really very old. So I just want to keep pushing that point to understand this is not new. It didn't start in the 50s or whatever, you know. This is old stuff. So there they are, teaching the live foods to the whole Egyptian population, 1300 BC. So go back again. And then we have the Essenes, and many people identify us within as an Essene community. We're a little bit more complex than that, but we kind of use that because it's very much a Western model. And the Essenes were vegetarians, and many of them, like James, the brother of Jesus, you know, was said only to have fruits and vegetables, and he did have grains, and he only drank water. That's all he did his whole life, and he wore white. Didn't have much winter there either. That's the thing. See? But you know, they're in a model, a holistic model, because they led a spiritual life. They didn't see food as somehow separate from the rest of life. It was like moral, ethical, a whole spiritual way of life. So the integration was already there. So they're doing that, and they weren't just in Qumran, but actually they're all over the Middle East. And it's said they taught Pythagoras up in Mount Carmel. And he came down a live fooder as well as enlightened. So we have that kind of energy going on. I'll just mention, how many people tuned in December 21st this year? Okay, well, let's tune you in. We're actually going to be in Qumran. And we'll have a gathering in Israel, a gathering of about 400 people, kind of tuning into December 21st, 22nd. Now, from the Mayan tradition, there is a shifting of the times. It's called from the 5th Tikkun to the 6th Tikkun. But it's a 5,200-year cycle. And so there's an energetic shift. And without getting too much into that, people are meditating all over the world, kind of helping the shift happen. So we'll be there, but we also have our Spirit Dance brothers in Mexico, where I would be if I weren't there, you know, doing a dance with 200 people. And we have, you know, but there's people all over the world, people in India, just all over, who are participating in the shift of the ages. Okay. So it is an energetic shift, and I think you're going to see it. I think you're seeing it. There's, you know, not just weather changes, which I know pretty noticeable last few weeks. I understand that. My daughter lives in New York, Lower East Side, so it didn't have water, electricity, gas, or anything with two little kids. So it's an interesting event. So I'm glad you could all gather here. I know people are just recovering. You know? So. And I'm amazed how quickly people in New York recovered. Not everybody's done so well. So anyway, the point is that this event is going all over the world. And that was how I was kind of going. We're going to be releasing a scalar wave meditation to undo the radiation. And I say that seriously. Chernobyl, they found that people who meditated actually were able to, you know, have significantly less radiation effects. So there's a lot to be said about, you know, how do we undo the Fukushima thing, which they have not stopped for whatever reason. And it's still actively radiating. Let me tell you a little unfortunate statistic. As of 1 year after Fukushima, 60% of the kids have diabetes in Japan, in northern Japan. So it gives you an idea, like, you know, and the amount of thyroid cancer, the amount of people who died, which is not really reporting. There's massive kind of denial that there's even a problem. It's like a little scary. how whole nations in denial. But their medical report came out in Japan. 60% of the kids in northern Japan in the last year have developed diabetes. You know, I don't even want to think what the rest of the statistics show. A lot of people have developed thyroid cancer as well. So just mention that. So we'll be there doing that meditation and you may want to think about it. I'm not going to spend a lot of time talking, but I just said all I need to say at this moment. So Pythagoras then began to carry the torch and became a the live food vegan teacher of the world. Okay, and up until later, it was always called, instead of vegan, it was always called Pythagorean. They didn't have the word vegan. That only started with Watkins in 1944 in England. And then from him, Dr. Butcher Brenner picked up the torch in the 1890s, brought the live food back because we have the Dark Ages, and kind of moved away from all that understanding. And then we have Max Gerson, who, of course, you've probably heard about, who started, he healed a lot of people with diabetes. Albert Schweitzer was his first live food healing of type 2 diabetes. And healed 450 people with TB. And live foods are very, very powerful for healing. We got that. And then Edmund Burdo-Sakeli, how many people have heard of him? A little bit. Okay, he started the modern Essene movement in 1929. And he was from Hungary, or he was Hungarian, and he fed right in Tijuana, just a little south of, obviously, San Diego. He had a clinic. He saw 133,000 people from 1940 to 1970. So I'm just giving a little bit of the history of the movement as we see it. And then from him we have, Victor Cousens, Brian Clement, myself, being kind of the next wave. Of course, Ann Wigmore's preceded that. I never really studied with her, but Brian and Victor certainly did. I came in through a totally different door, which is, what's the best way for spiritual life? It wasn't even a consideration about health. It was, what's the best diet for spiritual life? That was the door I entered. Very different door. So when you hear me, I'm always coming from that place of spirituality, morality, ethics, and so forth, because I'm always seeing that picture, because that's where I started. It's my foundation. Okay, so that's the kind of overview. We have that. Now, this is the key that's going on. A world pattern of chronic degeneration. And this is important. A uniformly poor diet in each generation deteriorates more and more, and this continues until those generations are not able to reproduce. The potty trained cat study took 3 generations. Rats, it takes 8. Do you think it's happening with the humans? So in 2007 to 2009, they measured the rate of infertility. Women 20 to 24, there was a 9% decrease in fertility, overall 4% decrease. Maybe that doesn't sound like a lot. That's the biggest in 30 years. I mean, it was like in the measurement. Major shifts in infertility. That is what's going on. Plus we're having more hyperactivity and all the things that are going on that basically our species is weakening, getting weaker and weaker. That is, big picture what's going on. But the evidence is like the U.S. statistics. Just a 2-year picture is a major degeneration happening. Plus, we have, chronic diseases are just out of hand. The rates of diabetes are just skyrocketing in young people in a way that's just a little scary in terms of what's really going on. It used to be 4% of kids under 16 and less had type 2 diabetes. Now it's like 30%, of the diabetics in type 2. And so it's not good at all, and it's getting worse. Final outcome. So Price and Cottager, whose research was not really quoted correctly by the meat-eating population, didn't talk about meat. They talked about white flour, white sugar. I've been through the book a bunch of times and said, that's not right. This is not right. What they said is just this. White flour, processed and cooked food was associated with the degeneration of the germ cell strengthened by about. That's what they said. Just as part of the whole debate. But it's also just to understand what they said. And why am I bringing this up is that the live food, plant source only approach, okay, is the best way to protect the germ cell. What is the germ cell? The ovum and the sperm. So sometimes I get medical and I forget. Maybe not everybody knows the germ cells. It's the ovum, the sperm, and the ability to reproduce. And not only that, it's ability to reproduce healthy kids. Pretty big deal there. Healthy kids is another qualification. So rates of autism and different things. We know vaccinations are very much related to autism. That's a different discussion. But this is the key, that this diet that we're talking about is about survival of the species. That's my point. Survival of the species means maintain a healthy germ cell. That's what it means. I kind of said it pretty succinctly. Okay? But that's where we're at in the world today. I know there are many forces, and I don't want to get political with this, who are trying to limit, people living on the planet without getting too much into it. We have a few things that help. And I'm not really exactly promoting it, but I want to talk about what do you do with radiation. Okay, and a very brief thing, I'm working with them who's actually developed a way that neutralizes the radiation. We've checked everybody all over the planet. Everybody's exposed to radiation, and including the East Coast, and you take one bottle, 12 drops a day, that's it. And it clears people from 8 days to 30 days, whatever that takes. And it seems to stay cleared at this point up to 6 months, meaning you don't get your radiation back. So I find that really interesting. So we're really exploring that. So it's called radiation neutralization, RAD-NEUT. Just one bottle. It's a special formulation of over 100 different radioactive nucleotides, special superoxygen. There are a few little tricks. I didn't develop it, but it works. And so that's one of the main things. The second thing that I recommend, since radioactive iodine, I-131, is really one of the big players, and it's still being released. They haven't done anything to stop this. And if you fill your thyroid with, well, let me say this again. I wrote a whole monologue on iodine, but I want to just say iodine affects every single cell in the body, affects your brain function, and if people have adequate iodine, their IQ actually increases 13.5%. It affects your adrenals, affects the ovaries, affects your skin, affects your breast, protects you against fibrocystic breast, protects against breast cancer, on and on and on. Every single endocrine, it clears the, what's that? The it clears the fluoride out of your pineal gland, which is very important for the awakening process because the fluoride they put in the water calcifies the pineal gland. The whole discussion. I'm just touching on a few things. It competes with that, and it forces the fluoride, chloride, and bromide out of your system. So, but the big thing is it protects you against radioactive iodine. So, any kind of iodine is good. We kind of discovered a scalar wave iodine called illuminine that we're using. It's really, really powerful because it's scalar wave activated, and I see really remarkable transitions. I can't just say it's all illuminated because the fact is 97% of the American population is deficient in iodine. So everybody's deficient, okay? And just simple things like breast cancer is dramatically cut down when people have sufficient iodine. And like in Japan, they have like a third of the amount of breast cancer as people do here. I'm digressing. I just want to talk about the radiation because it is a major survival issue called survival of the species. So we can talk about live food, but it doesn't matter. If you're radioactive, you're not going to do well. Okay. One thing you saw a little bit is that we're doing all kind of greenhouses. Because we found that when the radiation, because we measured inside, outside the greenhouse, there's a difference of 5-fold. Okay, so obviously you want to have plants that are less filled with radiation than plants that are outside. So radiation's an issue. You got to do the best you can. I just told you the 2 things that we're doing that I think are really good. I have a whole program on that, blog on how to deal with radiation, but those are 2 the big ones. Okay, so this is it. Holistic veganism is the best suited for the protection of the germ cell and survival of the species. Just kind of keep in mind we are talking survival of the species now. Okay, now what else is good about it? Preserves personal health, vitality, and energy, and we'll talk a little bit about that a little bit later, but the point is when you really organize your diet in a good way, and I want to say, organize your diet in a good way according to your constitution is a very key concept. Because you can do live food but do it wrong and not do well. How many people have had that experience? Raise your hand. Okay, a few people. So, but I think there's more than that. I think you're being shy. So I don't want to say live food's a panacea because that is not the truth. The truth is you got to know what you're doing. You got to give it attention. You got to get it right from your constitution. Someday I'll come back and give a lecture on how to organize your diet for your constitution. Because that's actually key to being successful on a live food diet. You just got to get your trip together on that, just that one thing. Huge difference. But generally, I think most people in this room will agree it's good for your health and vitality, and really good. I've been on live foods for about 39 years, and at 70, that's my term, is enduring radiant health. It's like sometime last year, I thought, I've been doing this for a while. I don't have any aches or pains. I'm more flexible when I was the captain of undefeated Amherst College football team, or #1 in the East Coast. And it's like stronger, faster, and more flexible. It's amazing. Long-term use, okay? No tricks. I'm not even talking superfoods, right? I'm talking about whole lifestyle. And I know everybody's focusing, there's a lot of people focusing on superfoods. The rest of the world, like superfoods, what are you talking about, I just want to say that it doesn't require, you spending so much money. It really requires, don't eat too much, and we'll go over the details, but stay with the live foods. And 80% and more does do the trick, okay? I'm more like 99%. Okay, but the point is, it works. In the long term, so I can say, okay, I'm 7. I can look back and say, I can make a statement that you can't do until you get there. I'm looking, this is good. I feel good all the time. I'm going all the time. I was up at 3 in the morning sometime today. 3 in the morning. And it's like, here I am talking, But it's like steady, regular, flexible, and just a sense of well-being. That's kind of what I'm talking about, what we're doing. You don't have to be a superhero. We're not talking about that. We're just talking about being fully charged all the time, whatever's going on. And I'm saying that is attainable for everybody without a whole bunch of tricks. If you just stay with it. And I was talking to Patrick, it's like, wow, Jesus, you did 701 push-ups. You know what? I can do that. I did that when I was 60, but you know, you take moderate care of yourself, do a certain amount of exercise, a little bit of, you know, I do yoga every day, but also, you know, I do a little bit of hard exercise too, as well as walk every day. Where we live, we're out in the country, you can see I'm walking all the time. I don't really, actually, I personally don't have a car. I walk as much as I can. It works. It's not that complicated, you know. It's not a lot of money. There's no tricks to it. You just live it. That's a simple message, you know, so I'm saying, oh, okay, guess it works. That's kind of how I'm looking at it. Feeds the hungry. What's about that? Well, we know that live food, if the whole world were live food, we could feed the world 10 times over. We do not have a starvation problem. Well, 20 to 40 million, some people say 60 million people starve to death each year. There's like every 2 seconds a kid starves, okay, to death on this planet. I mean, that's happening, but it's not that food isn't available. But of course, we realize that the food to feed 100 cows can feed 2,000 people. Well, what are we doing? You know, we're feeding the cows so the, you know, people can eat their steaks. It's like a huge hoarding of resources. We're talking about energy. How much energy? Well, people vary their estimates. Some people say it's 10 times more. Other people say 22 to 20 times, 29 times more. How about water? 50 to 70% of the water in the planet goes to feed cows. They're using 70% of that agricultural land, 30% of the total land mass for cows. Okay? Well, the atmosphere has been polluted. And I'm going to explain that a little bit because I think people don't have that right. People say, well, we have global warming. I think we do have global warming. That's where we are. I can't tell you about here. It's about warming. But I can't tell you why it is, but I'm pretty sure it isn't because of carbon dioxide. Okay? How about methane? Methane's about 30 times more global warming. Where's methane come from? You got it, cows. And it's 30 times more. How about manure? Nitrogen. 60% of the nitrogen in the world comes from manure. That's 300 times more global warming than carbon dioxide. Whoa, okay. 35%. I'm going to go back to the methane. You know, as for methane, 9% from carbon dioxide. So carbon dioxide is not the problem. And, you know, they very carefully avoided the whole issue of animal agriculture and global warming. It is involved, but it isn't carbon dioxide. You see what I mean? It's methane and nitrogen. So just kind of throw that out for your thinking because people have been really misinformed and confused, and it's all about this carbon tax and all that. But you know, there's a politics by misinforming the real stuff. And I'm talking NASA statistics. I'm not talking, you know, really wild statistics here. So just kind of keep that in mind when we talk global warming. The animal agriculture is the culprit, and it's like the cow in the middle of the living room that everybody's ignoring. But we got to look at the cows, the pigs, the chickens, and you know, all that's going on, and that doesn't happen in a vegan way of life. And that's the point I'm making. Animal cruelty, somewhere the estimates are rough, but up to 25 billion animals are killed in the United States each year. That's a lot of animals. I mean, I can't grasp that. Tell you the truth, I don't quite get what that means, but it's a lot of blood, a lot of misery. That's what I can get. The ecology I just talked about, global community is a big deal. China is just, they've increased their meat consumption by 5-fold since the 1950s. What's the result? They're out of land, they're out of water, they're going to Brazil to get water, you know. it's unsustainable. Animal agriculture is unsustainable. But people aren't willing to do it. What they're willing to do is say, well, let's decrease the world population so a few of us can keep eating animals. It's not a wise solution, but that's what people are thinking. And maintains and protects the biocomputer mind. So, without getting too much into the details of spiritual nutrition, the meat eating takes the energy of misery and cruelty, fear, and when you take that into you, it's like it brings that into your consciousness. It affects your ability to meditate and have a peaceful mind. In yoga, we say yoga chuti virti nirodha. Anybody know what that means? This is a yoga student. You're supposed to know that. It means yoga is quieting the activities of the mind. Yoga is quieting the activities of the mind. So you eat meat, you're taking all that stuff. It's like it aggravates the mind. You can't have a quiet mind so easily eating meat. You can if you meditate a lot, but otherwise you can't. Consciousness of sovereignty. What am I talking about? Anybody have an idea? It means understanding that you are a unique individual. When your mind is thinking clearly, you are the unique expression of the divine. When your mind is not thinking very clearly, you're just kind of like part of the mass media. Does that make sense? I'm just kind of using a metaphor, but it's like the mass media is like, here's your story, eat it. And it's not that digestible, but if your mind isn't working right, well, yeah, sure, that's right. But when your mind is working right, you actually have a clear intellect. You're able to perceive what's really happening. You're able to read between the lines. You're able to think for yourself and not just say, well, your school teacher said that, or this is what the newspaper said, or whatever. So sovereignty means your sense of integrity. Okay? And the Torah teachings, biblical teachings, is fundamental to spiritual life. You've got to have sovereignty. Fundamental to spiritual life. I just want to make that point. You've got to have some sense of sovereignty. Because as unique individuals, we become the unique expression of the divine. You're on the side, you start to really live that unique expression. That's what I'm trying to say. When you're not, and you're eating the junk food, your mind is so dulled that you didn't know what the word unique expression is. You're just part of the mass media. Does that make sense? So, can you tell the difference between your friends? I don't want to create kind of differences, but can you tell the difference in when you're eating live food for a while and how other people are thinking eating junk food? That's what I'm talking about. It's very clear. Now, the yamas and niyamas, the 10 speakers, 10 commandments. So, there is, in both Indian and obviously biblical traditions, there's some simple things. You shouldn't murder. Call ahimsa. Do no harm. Clearly, when you're a vegan, live food, you're not doing a whole lot of harm. You're not taking life, you're not spilling blood. That's what it means, okay? And then, don't steal. Now, what does that mean? Well, when you kill an animal, you take its fur, you take its life, you ruin its life anyway, because most of the animals are factory farmed, so that the whole life purpose of an animal, animals do have life purpose, at least my cats think so. Okay? And you take its milk, you take its flesh, you take its skin. It's like that's called stealing. By any other definition, unless you've completely deceived yourself. And that is the word asetya. Don't lie. So asetya is non-lying. And what does that mean? It's don't lie to yourself. That's what you're doing. The meat eaters, and I don't want to classify that, but most people aren't thinking about those things. Obviously, if you're vegan like food, you somewhere along the line you've come across that idea. Okay, and you're not deceiving yourself. You're not living in a world of illusion. Doesn't. The cows aren't really that happy giving you their milk. Let me explain that. It used to be that the average dairy cow would live 30 years and give 2,000 gallons of milk a year. Now the average dairy cow gives 50,000 gallons a year and lives 3 years to 5 years. That's a pretty short time. They don't even make it to teenage years and cow years. So this is stealing life. Stealing the life force. That's what I mean with that. Okay? And then we have don't commit adultery. How does that relate to the Okay. See, think about how a cow is inseminated. You'll see a picture in a moment, but think about it. Some guy or woman, I don't know, takes their hand and shoves it up into the universe, their uterus. That's cross-species sexuality, if you kind of just look at it in that kind of cross way. Now, how do you think you get the sperm from the bull? Do you ever think about that? Somebody's got to get the sperm from the bull. Figure it out. That again is cross-species bestiality. Okay? That is considered adultery. That's what I'm trying to say here. And then, don't covet. Well, apagraha in yoga. Well, here we are polluting the whole world with the animal, stuff. You're ruining the ecology. You're stealing people's fresh air. You're taking the land. You're taking the water. That's coveting. You're taking the public commons and you're taking it for your own private profit. Okay, so these are the things we're talking about in the big picture. So the meat-eating violates, like the yamas, and it violates the last 5 of the 10 speakings. But now you're getting the bigger picture of how this is a moral, ethical, and spiritual thing. Okay, but it's not about moral superiority. It's about, it doesn't say what it's supposed to say. It's about being responsible for the result of your actions. The wise person, according to King Solomon, understands the implication of their actions. You live vegan way, you live a lively way, then you get the health, but everything begins to work right and the planet comes into harmony because you're actually living in harmony with the planet. It's not that complicated, but that's what goes on. So it brings peace to the body, peace to the mind, peace to the family, community. All cultures are allowed to live. Peace with ecology and peace with the divine. That's interesting. That tree's growing out of the sky. We got, our pair was too powerful. It merged the heavens and the earth. What do we do? What happened? Okay. Here we go. God said, I've given you every herb yielding seed, which is upon the face of the earth, and every tree, which is the fruit of a tree yielding seed. Huge for food. How complicated is that? They say, here's your prescription. This is how to be healthy. What happened? People aren't listening. That's the problem, right? People don't want to listen. Okay? And this is another thing I'm going to hold on this one. But so here are the ones I just said. Truth, nonviolence, ascetia, non-stealing, brahmacharya, this is a word for don't commit adultery, and apagraha. I just kind of ran through all those. I like to be kind of repeat a few times so you kind of get the ideas. Okay, so I see this is truth in our world has been turned upside down. I got that. Meat eaters don't see the diet as it connects to the whole. That's what we've been talking about. There's a delusion. You have to have that delusion because you think meat is something that's on the grocery shelf. You know, it's like you have to disconnect it from the blood and the gore and the misery. And you think she's happy, huh? Okay? She ain't so happy. This is how it looks, see? This is the big lie. Elsie's just so happy to give you her life. You know, instead of living 30 years or 40 years, she's happy to die in 3 years, happy to have her little patch taken away. You know, these animals have emotions, they have feelings. This is reality. You know? So this is the stealing I'm talking about. And here we go. That's cross-species, that's bestiality. That's what I'm trying to say. We don't even think about it. Wow. From what I can remember, your father looked like a giant turkey bastard. See, because that's what that is. You see. That's adultery from maturity. You see, did you get the connection? I talked about it, you got the picture. I didn't show the other picture of the bulls, but summarize, thou should not pollute the public commons. Okay? This is what happens. This is really at least 10 times the amount of water. At least 10 times. Is that a problem? Well, if you live in Arizona, that's a problem. You got lots of water here for a while. You know, hopefully for a long while, but, you know, we're running out of water. Fresh water. You're pretty good on the salt water. You already discovered that a few weeks ago. Fresh water, different story. And this is a problem. And they really take somewhere between 50 and 70% of the fresh water. And this is not workable. It's a collision course. Okay? And that's what we're talking about. And you know, now you kind of maybe begin to understand where you probably heard of them trying to, you know, kill off people with the vaccinations and this, that, and the radiation, all those things, because the people who are, you know, trying to control the world, they do understand this. They've understood it for about 70 years, where they decided, well, if we're going to have all the opulence we want, we're going to have to limit what's available to people. You know, limit the amount of people. Okay, so, I mean, they're not stupid, okay? It's a major way to replenish the earth. Decreased animal factor farming decreases earth's destruction, increases local veganic farming. Now let's talk about that for a second. How many pounds of carbon dioxide does 1 acre of organic farming create? Does it pull out of the air per year? Quiz. Anybody know? 3,700 pounds per year. 3,700 pounds. So you do organic farming, you're actually pulling carbon dioxide out of the atmosphere. And we do have a problem. Just because I said it wasn't key to global warming doesn't mean it's not a problem. We used to have 282 parts per million carbon dioxide. Now it's up to 380 parts per million. In fact, that's not good, because if you got that much carbon dioxide, you got a lot less oxygen. Used to be 38% oxygen, then 19%. I think in some places in the cities it's probably 15, 14%. And low oxygen is connected with all the chronic diseases, cancer, and so forth. They're all kind of connected. So this is a little bit. So that's just an example. But the whole thing of organic farming is you're replenishing the soil, it's growing, the organisms are growing, everything's happening. You're repairing the planet. That's the key concept. So, grain petroleum, what we're looking at is they're taking up about 70% of the grain and petroleum. Not so good. 20 million acres of new to the desert produced a year with 50 to 70 million acres of trees cut. And so what we're getting is desert. Again, this is upside down. But okay. We're literally skinning the earth alive, and that's what we're talking about. You know, we see that a little bit more in the desert than we do here, but it's coming this way. Just got to get it. We can't, it's coming to the Midwest. It's already in the Midwest. So, because we're just drying the planet out. So here's the global warming thing. I can't tell you that carbon dioxide is the cause of global warming, but there's global warming. But I actually don't believe it is caused by carbon dioxide. As I said, here I said 280 parts, now it's 385 parts per million. Increasing at 3 parts per million big picture for your overall health. Out of order. Because the brain is not going to work so well. That's what we're talking about. Peace with all cultures. This whole thing creates peace with all cultures. Here's that. Okay? But basically, what we eat affects our consciousness, and our consciousness affects what we eat. That's just the basic fundamental here. Foods of love known for God. And this is the head of the Krishna society. If you can maintain it, raw fruits and vegetables are the best diet for human being. Notice he didn't say dairy. He really said if you can maintain it, that's best. If you can't, then you can have some dairy. So you can show this to people in the Christian movement if you know anybody like that. So you got to have Krishna. Well, that was a few thousand years ago. This is one of my spiritual teachers, the enlightened being, Swami Prakashananda, said it very, very beautiful. When we kill animals, we create pain, misery, and fear. Okay? When we eat the flesh of these animals, that pain, misery, and fear goes into us, creating disease and illness. It's like, bingo. It's really, really clear. So this is a little bit of my research here on the diabetes. This is where people's blood sugars were type 2, 247, and it comes out 86, losing 18 pounds in 3 to 4 weeks here, and 97% of people are off medication. Now Neil Bernard's work, which I applaud, I think he's done great. How many people know Neil Bernard? I think he's done great work. He's more on the high complex carbohydrate diet, so he puts on people on mostly the grains, and he does get 47% reduction in medication. It doesn't say healed, it doesn't say off medication, but reduction. So they get something, okay? So even if you're doing grains, you get something, okay? And here we are, 3 weeks, 86% off all medication, type 2, insulin dependent. It's really 24%. That's didn't get changed. It should have got changed. And then this is a 61% cure rate. 61, not 60, and here's 31% and 21%. When we flipped it over, it's missing the 21%. But basically, these are strong results. And I'm kind of explaining a diet that works. And now I'm going to kind of move into a slightly different understanding of that. There's in my research, and I'm kind of moving a little bit into some teaching here that's going to surprise you a little bit. You've heard of Esselstyn, yes? No? Dr. Esselstyn did a 10% fat diet. Ornish did 10% fat diet. Okay? And Esselstyn got, well, he used statins. You know what statins are? Okay. They're dangerous. They kill you. They cause all kinds of liver disease, and they affect your mind. They create depression. They have a lot of problems. I'm trying to hold myself back. I have to think what I want to say about it. Okay. Anyway, he actually didn't get his results straight. He actually put all his people on statins. You didn't know that. I actually read the research. I do these strange things. I actually read the real papers. And it's like, oh my God, they use statins. You know. Well, from a diabetes point of view, that's a problem for me because statins, if you've got diabetes, will raise your blood sugar 40 points. It will increase the rate of diabetes by 9%. Not a good thing. It's associated with heart disease, and I've got a lot of problems. But the fact is, he didn't get people's cholesterol down to 137. My approach with the 25 to 45% fat diet brought the people's cholesterol to 159. I mean, I wasn't trying to observe what happened. Ornstein's work with 10% low-fat diet got people's cholesterol to 173. Okay? So how did I, at 25 to 45%, get the cholesterol down to 40 to 159, and Ornstein did 173. Plus my triglyceride for people was 69. Esselstyn's was about 173, and Ornstein's was 232. Well, triglycerides are actually associated with heart disease, just to make a point here. But my big point is that we're achieving really good health with the 25 to 45% fat diet. Does that shock you? Now, there's a silence, obviously it does. So let me tell you this. Let me tell you what's really going on. And I'm not running through this. I have another slideshow that goes through the detail. But the bottom line, 2009, studying all the studies for the since 1950, the Archives of Internal Medicine, which is the AMA journal, like primo journal, basically said, listen now, there is no evidence whatsoever to connect the amount of fat in your diet to heart disease. That's studies with about 1.25 million people, all collectively. I'll say it again. There is no evidence whatsoever to connect heart disease with cholesterol levels and with fat intake. That's the real research. Now, I have a list that long in my new book. The list is that long, well, the references, but study after real studies, not Esselstyn's 11 people, but the real studies with literally 1.25 million people have shown that. Now, they also showed, I don't want to get all into detail of that, women live longer with higher cholesterol. Do you hear what I just said? Women live longer with a higher cholesterol. A study came out of Norway, 50,000 people. Women with a cholesterol, get this, 273, live 28% longer than women with 193 or less. Did you hear what I just said? Okay, women live longer with a higher cholesterol. So all this low-fat thing, low cholesterol, isn't really so good for women. I'm not saying people are deliberately anti-women. That is not what I'm saying. But I'm telling you the statistics. There was a study in the Bronx that showed the same thing with 1,000 people. Didn't make that much difference with men. High, low, didn't matter. Not much difference between 160 and 260. Zero difference. And the big research says the same thing. Studies with 150,000 people, no difference. Okay, no difference in how much fat you take in versus heart disease. No difference, people with the same cholesterol levels, you can't determine heart attack and so forth. And the answer really is, cholesterol is the key. If anybody knows anything, I'm talking about medical doctors now, knowing everybody knows it's inflammation. It is not cholesterol. That's just established. Holistic medical people know that, but I'm saying the general cardiologist is beginning to accept that simple fact. It's inflammation. It is not cholesterol. Okay, so we have this whole craziness about cholesterol. Now, I'm just making a point without getting you to I want you to kind of wake up on that, because this is critical. And I'll tell you in a minute why it's critical. But let's talk about omega-3s, because that's fat too, isn't it? So what do we know about omega-3s? It's the same thing. People have adequate omega-3s, and I'll just kind of make it clear. If you've got 4% omega-3s versus 8% omega-3s in your kind of diet, you live considerably longer at 8%. If you have, adequate omega-3s, you literally have 85% more longevity. I'm sorry, I should say it different. Less mortality. You live longer. We know that if you have adequate omega-3s, your